Hello and welcome everyone to today's webinar entitled Boost Sales Conversions with Digital Customer Service Excellence. I'm Campbell Phillips, editor at Power Retail, and I'm being joined here today by Ross Haskell, Director of Products at BoldChat, who will be presenting today's webinar alongside his colleague Andy Farquharson, Vice President of Longyearbyen Asia Pacific. Before handing over to Ross, I just want to take care of a few brief housekeeping issues. Firstly, I encourage anyone to pose questions throughout the presentation simply by entering your query in the relevant field of your GoToWebinar control panel. Secondly, we will be making this webinar available along with BoldChat study into live chat effectiveness soon after the completion of the event. All attendees can look forward to receiving these via a follow-up email. If you experience any difficulties with viewing or hearing this audio-visual presentation, please raise a flag via your GoToWebinar control panel, send through a question, or please email me at campbell@mediapad.com.au. If you wish to contact either of our presenters after the event, their emails are ross.haskell@logmein.com and andy.farquharson@logmein.com. That's it, and over to you, Ross.
Great. Well, thank you for the introduction, and thanks to everyone for joining today. Just a very quick introduction to LogMeIn, and then we'll jump right into some really good content today based almost entirely on a very significant research study that we did with regular internet shoppers. So for those of you who are not familiar with LogMeIn, we are a publicly traded company, been around for a decade. We're headquartered here in the U.S. Our main headquarters are in Boston, but we do have world headquarters scattered all over the globe, including Australia. We have some development resources in Budapest, Hungary, and some other places as well. Some of the products that you might be familiar with are the LogMeIn product itself, some of our newer products, Cubby and Join Me, and I work on the BoldChat product in the customer care area along with LogMeIn Rescue. That's just a little bit of who we are and what we do. Didn't want to spend too much time on that today because we have so much great content to cover. The real foundation of this webinar is a research report that BoldChat has conducted for the past 5 years. I'll talk a little bit more in detail about that report here in a second. There's a couple of slides that bring in some other research from the e-tailing group, which is a consulting firm to the internet retailing industry. And so some of that information is scattered. And in fact, the e-tailing group for the past 2 or 3 years has helped us from a consulting basis on live chat effectiveness. There are really 4 topics that we're going to cover today. The first is sort of the biggest one, the big find. And this has to do with the fact that the world is really turning multi-channel. It's really about customer service anyway, through any means, on any device. We're then going to specifically explore 3 of those channels. One of them is live chat. We're going to talk about that one for a couple of reasons. One has to do with a unique demographic profile there. We're also going to talk about email and the rise of social media. And as Campbell said at the end, please, during the presentation, I'd like lots of questions to come in because we did leave approximately 15 minutes at the end to answer questions. There's a lot of data that you'll be looking at, and that generates usually a lot of interest and a lot of questions. So a little bit about the 2 reports, and specifically the one where most of the data comes from, Live Chat Effectiveness 2013. This is brand new. We just published it. It is the 5th year. It's likely the final year for the report. By far, it's the largest sample we've ever done. We sampled over 4,000 regular internet shoppers, and we did this on a truly global basis. We did it here in the US, Canada, Europe. 23% of the sample actually came from Australia and New Zealand, and a smaller percentage from Mexico. The sample are not our customers. They are shoppers that we field through a third-party panel. So we don't know these people, these 4,000 folks. We know about them. We know that they are regular shoppers who shop at least monthly. Most of them shop more regularly online than that. And as I said, we've worked with the e-tailing group for some number of years on this. This is the third year. It's been a very helpful and fruitful collaboration. A little bit about the other piece of research, which is the e-tailing group mystery shopping survey. What the e-tailing group does is they have a very complex and robust rubric, and they secretly shop 100 retailers during the height of the shopping season in the fourth quarter. And they're looking for what kinds of service are available, and they have measurements associated for how efficient and competent those are, and they publish those results in their own study. And so you'll see a couple of slides that include some information there just to augment what we've found in live chat effectiveness. So the big find this year is that we named the report the wrong thing. For 5 years, we've called it live chat effectiveness, but in reality, what we found this year is that, yeah, live chat works, but so do a whole bunch of other channels. We kept the name just for consistency's sake, but that's the reality. This year, we added a huge number of questions about other channels of support and sales. We asked about how frequently they were used. We asked how satisfied people were with using them. And to be very honest with you, we expected to see really great disparity among the channels, but we didn't. This chart here is showing the responses to the simple question, how frequently do you use these channels to contact internet retailers? And here's what we expected. We expected the phone to be very high. We expected email to be high to middle of the road. And we expected something like Twitter to be pretty low, maybe even in the single digits. We were shocked to find the phone is not nearly as high as we thought. These are the percentage of respondents who said that they use the channel to contact internet retailers some or all of the time. Twitter is 1 in 5 people said that they do this some or all of the time, which was a really shocking finding for us. Text messaging at 30% of the sample saying some or all of the time. Not surprisingly, email did well, a lot better than we thought. 62%, nearly the highest. Knowledge bases of the self-serve variety was the top. So we started to think, wow, it really is a multi-channel world out there. And don't worry that you can't see the data. I'm hiding it from you on purpose. The reason I'm doing that is because we also asked the question in a different way. We said, okay, thinking about using each particular channel, we took 3 of the top ones, phone, live chat, and email. And we said, now please rate that channel on how it does across a variety of criteria, like the speed with which you get your question answered, the knowledge of the agents, the thoroughness of the response. And again, we expected to see really great disparity here. So think about how you might respond to these or what you would expect internet shoppers to say about, for example, the thoroughness of response. Well, I would expect email to do quite well there, and I'd expect the others to do a little less well. Live chat maybe do pretty well because it's all written communication, right? Well, what we found is that, again, the disparity was not there. Generally very satisfied with all of these criteria across all of these channels. A couple of exceptions, and simply because it took so long to get the telephone right, waiting time and the chances that you won't get transferred, but the agent will solve your problem. Those have just been call center problems that have plagued the industry for a long time, and those showed up in the research pretty prominently. But other than that, everything did really well. So the channels are used, and the channels are satisfying. Pretty interesting. One of the things we did this year as well, and you're going to see this in the research. A lot of people get a little glazed over with all the numbers and all the data, but if you just hang in there, in each one of the sections, we include some, the voice of the customer. We include words they actually wrote into the survey, because for the first time we had some open-ended responses. Now remember, we've surveyed over 4,000 people. It was close to 5,000. I think the final tally was 4,700. And we allowed people to give us open-ended responses. There were hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of open-ended responses. And we read them all. And you get some real meaning behind the data by doing that. And so I think that the conclusion here is that customers are vigilant and they will escalate via every available channel. I'm going to read just a couple of the verbatim responses so you can see. I tried to place an order multiple times, and for some reason the website would not accept my membership card or my address. I called in. They said there was nothing they could or would do. I then contacted their Facebook page, and they promised to fix it, but I've not gotten the response I was hoping for. They keep saying they will call and make it right, but it's been more than a week. So here's obviously a negative experience from a customer who's reaching out across channels multiple times trying to get their problem solved. Now, reading that, what do you think has happened? Did they give up? My guess is they didn't give up. They kept finding other channels and other ways to get their problem solved. Maybe they even got more vocal on social media. It's one of the things about that channel that makes it kind of unique. Here's another one. I followed their instructions by sending details via their website. When I received no reply within 48 hours, I rang them. Details were taken down, but their operators who said that the machine would be collected on a given date, the collection didn't happen. I rang again. A similar problem here, and the customer continues to try and find solutions. One thing that I would point out here that's really interesting, we'll talk more about this later, look how long they waited for the first one. They gave this company 48 hours to try and help them. I think that was amazingly generous. Although what we'll find is that that's one of the advantages of multi-channel is that the time expectations are different. On the positive side, I had been sending emails and making phone calls for over a month. When I went to their Facebook page, I got a response within hours and the issue was resolved. So initial failure, but final multi-channel success there, and similar for the second one. So as we continue throughout the presentation, we'll start with the data, and then we'll look at some of these open-ended responses, and then we'll kind of make some conclusion statements about each of the things we're looking at here. So, what do customers expect? They want full resolution. They want efficient turnaround. They want consistent, high-quality experience no matter what channel they're going through. Speed of response is in the eye of the beholder. It depends on the channel that you choose, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. Urgency is in direct correlation to the customer's circumstances. So one of the things that always bubbles to the top when you read the open-ended responses is depending on the problem, the severity, the amount of money spent, the customer is either more or less vigilant. Customers are aware of the time that it typically takes to get an answer, and they're usually willing to wait that long. That's actually a really good finding if you're involved in taking care of customers in either a service or a sales setting. Customers will give new channels a chance. In fact, they're willing to be patient, and if customers don't get an answer through one channel, they branch out. They keep seeking new ways to get satisfied. So, final word here: ignoring channels and ignoring what shoppers want can be dangerous for retailers. So, what I'd like to do
Ross,
is Andy, go ahead.
Yeah, great. So, look, guys, I just wanted to really sort of reiterate that. We're speaking to a lot of customers out here, so people who do shop online, and also sort of listening to their customers. They're finding that sort of with the rise of social media that people are becoming a little bit more impatient. They're looking for more immediate ways, so to be able to contact and get a response from the people that they're buying online. And so it's been really, really great to see that to be backed up by the stats that we've got from this survey globally. So we're really looking forward to sort of getting into those in a little bit more detail.
Right, and that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to dive into three of the channels, look at them in some detail. And the first one is live chat. And why are we looking at that one? There's a couple of reasons. One, we know from working with customers and from benchmarking data, so just looking at the data, the aggregate data of our customers, that live chat works. It drives sales. It drives satisfaction. There's another reason, which is that there is this group, and it's been consistent for the past 3 years, fairly consistent, that prefers live chat as their number one way to communicate with a retailer. We simply ask the question, what is your preferred way to communicate with a retailer, an internet-based retailer? And live chat is about 1 in 5 or 1 in 6 people, 18%, 19%, 17%. This year, you can see in aggregate it dropped a little bit, and that is almost entirely because of the geographic dispersion of the sample. The answers are really different when you look at it by geography, and we will get into that in a second. But the other thing that's really interesting is this group is nearly 1 in 5 of your website visitors that prefers live chat is unique. They are demographically unique. They are less likely to be 50 years of age or older. They are more likely to be college educated. They are far more likely to spend more and to shop more frequently. And the thing that's really interesting about this demographic uniqueness is that the other channels aren't like that. So those that prefer email, and there's a large number of them that prefer email that we'll see in a moment, they do not share any demographic profile like this. They look like a bell curve. Same with the telephone. The only other one that really does is social. And the only demographic characteristic that they have that's unique, not income, not education, is their age. And this is, I guess, very intuitive. So those that prefer to use social media tend to be a younger audience. But there are so many things demographically that make the live chat preferring group unique. And so that's one of the reasons we look at it and explore it. Just the very presence of live chat on a website can have a positive impact on purchase intent. So here's the question that we ask all these shoppers. We say, does the presence of live chat positively influence your intent to purchase? We say, you're more or less likely to buy from them because live chat is there. And the answers they can choose are, I'm more likely to buy, less likely, or it has no impact. So if you look at the entire sample, 61% say it doesn't have any impact. A quarter of them say that it positively influences them to purchase, and 14% say less likely. Clearly, those people are probably had a negative experience, right? If you look at that group that prefers chat, well, now 47% of them are positively influenced. If you look at the group that don't necessarily prefer chat, but they have told us that they have had a chat in the past, still higher, 36%. If you look at those that have not had a chat ever with a retailer, that's non-chatters, only 14%. But still, they've never used the technology, and 14% say it positively influences them to buy. It's pretty amazing. I have the actual data here from Australia and the New Zealand sample. It's 21% that say that it positively influences them, 10% that says it would negatively influence them, and 69% that say that it makes them no more or less likely. So there's still almost a quarter of the population in your geography that are positively influenced just by the very presence of the technology on a website. There's a particular kind of live chat called proactive chat, and for those of you that don't know what that is when a window or some other image pops up in front of the visitor and invites them to engage in a live chat conversation. That's called proactive chat or proactive invitations. It's usually driven by some sort of a rules engine, so the website visitor does some number of things or visits some number of pages, and that fires the rule on the invitation. Though it can be manual, there are some products that enable manual inviting. And we ask shoppers what their reaction to this technology is, because a lot of people are nervous about it. A lot of people say, doesn't it annoy people? Well, we ask that very question, and we say, based on a 1 to 5 scale, where 1 is it annoys me, and 5 is, hey, I'm happy to know there's someone there in case I need help. We measure receptivity to being proactively invited, and we consider a 3 kind of neutral, a 4 and 5 clearly positive. So the sum of all of those to be the shoppers that are receptive to chat. And you can see since 2010, kind of peaked last year, and this year, it's about flat, a little bit down, but still, it's nearly 2/3 of the shopping population say that they're generally welcoming to the technology. One of the reasons we investigate proactive chat is because we know from our benchmarking data that visitors who engage in a proactive chat are 8 times more likely to buy than a regular website visitor. Here's the data from the Australia-New Zealand market. It's a little less positive, actually. The total sum of the 3s, 4s, and 5s is 59%. It's still a majority of the population. What that tells me is that when rolling out this technology in that geography, in your geography, more care, because it certainly is possible to do this wrong. It's very possible to do it right and to do it well. It does take it's a bit of art and a bit of science. And so in your particular geography, definitely do it if you're even considering it, because we know it works. Just make sure to do it right. Okay, So some open-ended responses around live chat. Um, so a couple, I won't read all of these, I'll just read a couple. The second one, online chat was quick and answered my complicated question easily and promptly. A lot of people think, oh, live chat is not good for me or good for my product because I sell a very complicated product. Here's a shopper that had apparently complicated questions that were easily and promptly answered through chat. The kind of middle one down. I love live one-on-one chat whenever I need help or a question answered. The wait is not long, they are knowledgeable, and best of all, they have an option to have the entire chat emailed to us so there's no misunderstanding of who said what later on. Love their support. So here's a customer talking about a really positive experience they had and something that, we generally don't think about but is true, which is live chats are written communication. You can maintain a record of it, which is cool. Here's a negative one. I kept trying to get a specific answer, but the person continued to send back very general responses. I was convinced they were not a real person. It's funny, but having knowledgeable people is really the key. We're showing one of our customers here. This is Blue Nile. They're a U.S.-based jewelry online retailer. And I use them for a couple of reasons. One, they are very successful with chat from a sales standpoint. The other is they follow some best practices that I thought I'd point out. One is we asked the shopping audience where the preferred location is on a website for chat, and we gave them the option to pick kind of the left side of the page, the top right, which is where you see it here, Blue Nile, on the right-hand side of the page, and then kind of in the bottom right-hand corner. And the winner was this location, and all the others tied for second. So if you do have live chat, this is definitely a place to have a chat button. We would argue you can have more than one, and that's probably a good idea too. But if you're going to only have one, this is the place to put it. So a little final note on live chat. The give and take mechanism inherent in the technology is ideal. The pace is optimal for shoppers. The multitasking factors appealing. Some other open-ended responses we had is, hey, I love using it at work. I'm able to do this and take care of the kids. So the ability for the consumer to really be in control of the conversation is one of the other reasons they like it. As we just learned, the record of the encounter matters. When we asked folks to tell us about their chat experiences, a lot of them said, I only had to have one chat and my problem was solved. So chat provides a really good venue for one chat resolution. Here's something that was interesting, and I mentioned it earlier. Every single bad chat that people wrote about, because we asked them specifically, hey, do you have any bad chat experiences? Tell us about it. Do you have any good ones? Tell us about those. All the bad ones had zero to do with the technology and everything to do with what they perceived as ineptness or non-empowerment of the agent. The person couldn't help me. They didn't have what they needed to help me. They were a poor speller, things like that. So one of the other things that we learned is that chat execution matters. So I talked about the proactive thing, but also button placement. We just talked about that with Blue Nile. Chat hour availability and button design. People do prefer 24/7 support, but it's not necessary. You definitely have to have business hours and some hours after business hours. And some weekend hours are appreciated, but not necessary either. We're curious to find out some best practices around button design. So we showed these images, and we asked folks to tell us which one they'd be most likely to click on in order to engage in a chat. And so everyone take a look at those images, A, B, C, and D. You see that we removed color from the equation because color is just so website aesthetic driven. We didn't think that would be fair. So we made them all gray. And really what we're testing here is sort of just imagery. The winner was B, the woman. And second was they all tied for second. And the really interesting thing is that is true no matter how you cut the data. In every geography, B was the answer. If you look at men versus women, B is still the winner, no matter what your gender. Household income level, doesn't matter. B is the winner. Education, B is the winner. No matter how you look at it, that is the winning. That was the winning button. Really interesting. So, chat offers a unique opportunity for timely responses and relationship building. So, I'm going to move on and talk about the email channel. This was a big surprise from the research at how frequently email is used, how popular it is. We interact with retailers every day, and one of the things we've heard over the past several months, if not several years, is we're thinking about maybe abandoning the email channel, getting rid of it, so forth and so on. This research would certainly indicate that would probably not be a wise idea. Email is the most preferred way to communicate with a retailer overall. We asked, again, it's just that question, what is your preferred way to communicate with a retailer? And what you're looking at here is the 3-year trend. So live chat, which you saw a different view of this before, was 18, 19, 17 this year. Email, it is declining. I will grant you that. But still, this year in 2013, 53% of the shopping population said that is their preferred way. It's higher than the other ones, than any of the other ones by far. It is the clear winner. Email is the most preferred way under a series of scenarios as well. So if you look at the right-hand chart, we ask people to say, okay, so forget about your most preferred way in general, and think about these particular internet shopping scenarios. So you're having trouble finding an item. You want to ask a general question. You experience an error in the checkout process. Now, which communication channel do you want to use, email, phone, or live chat? And the results that you're seeing here, we consider these to be races, okay? So some people vote for live chat, and some people vote for phone, and some people vote for email. What I'm showing here is over the past 5 years, how many times each of these channels have won the race, okay? And you can see far and away, email is just the super champion. The phone won once 1 year. The live chat won 3 or 4 times over the past 5 years, but email consistently wins. Why? And we'll learn this in a little bit, but consumers like it because it's ubiquitous. This whole idea of documenting the conversation came up again. And Australia, New Zealand is way different, sort of. I apologize for sort of. That's really an Americanism, but what I mean by that is email is even more preferred in your geography, but the order of the preferred channels is relatively the same. Not the order, but the how many kind of points everything else got is about the same. So email in your market was 68%, the most preferred channel. Live chat was 12%, telephone was 17%, those two are pretty close, and social media was 3%. Certainly can't deny email in your market.
Ross, you see the email there in the States has been declining over the last sort of 3 years as the preferred channel. I mean, do you see Australia really sort of mirroring the US in that way?
So here's what I think will happen. So this, by the way, this chart on the left here, this is the global sample. This is everybody, okay? And later I'll show you the results from the U.S. And what you will see is that the United States has a lot more equity among the channels. So email and phone and live chat, there's a winner certainly, but it's not a clear winner like here. Email's like 30% and live chat's 25% and things like that. Okay, so there's a lot more kind of parity associated with the different channels. And I think that what has happened is as live chat has increased its penetration, as the telephone has gotten better and better, and social media is kind of on the rise. Over time, people have turned away from email a little bit. They still a third of the population in the U.S. relies on it or something. I'm not quite remembering the number, but I think that's right. And so, yes, I think as live chat increases its penetration in your market, you will see more parity over time. The fact that email is the clear and away winner here and this year, the first year that we did it, I would expect that number to go down and the other numbers to go up, and over time for there to be closer equity among them.
Great, thanks.
Sure, Andy. So a couple of open-ended responses about email. Life is too short to wait on the phone, especially difficult with children, so email is much easier, and I can keep the email as a reference. I thought this was a really considerate consumer. Email lets you think as you compose questions, so they are asked more considerately. I wish we could all have customers like that. There's one about language barriers, so the written word maybe is better than the phone. And again, we see this documentation statement several times. Everything's in black and white, leaving no room for doubt. So the customer that I'm showing you here on the right, this is 1A Auto. They sell aftermarket auto parts, and they're doing several things right here on their website. First of all, they're definitely multi-channel. By accident, I cut it off, but up there above the shopping cart symbol is an 800 number in orange or yellow or something like that. So they have telephone support. You can see that they have an email form that I'm showing here. They also have live chat, and they're using an image in their button that we know to be the winner. So they're doing a lot of things correctly here, which is why I showed them. Another interesting thing about email, and actually this data comes from that e-tailing group survey where they do the secret shopping. And one of the things that you can see here, the 2011 years on the right-hand side, and the most recent year, 2012, in the fourth quarter when they do this, is on the left-hand side of that chart. You can see that the response time to email has come down, and that's good. It's also within the right threshold. So what we know from the live chat effectiveness research is that the right times, live chat is a real-time communication. So when someone engages you in a live chat, you need to talk to them right away. And sure, they're willing to wait a few seconds between messages, but really it's as real-time as you can get without being a phone call. So you really can't keep people waiting too long. Same with the telephone. Email, however, you've got a day to respond, and generally the majority of the population is very satisfied with the day. With social media, you've got hours. 4 hours would be optimal. Less is always better, and we'll get into some of that later. But it's interesting if you think about managing a contact center. Having these different timing expectations is potentially an advantage from just a efficiency staffing standpoint. So as I said, 88% of survey respondents said they'd be satisfied if they received an email response in a day or less. I mentioned earlier, we speak to a lot of customers who are thinking about eliminating email, which we think is not wise. A non-response is detrimental to brand image. So the only case in which we would suggest eliminating email as a choice is if you're not going to respond at all. If you're not going to respond at all, or at least in some kind of timely fashion, 72 hours is pushing it, then it's probably better not to offer the channel. And we recommend focusing on the quality of response to truly meet the needs of the shopper. They certainly, in the same way you don't want to have to call back, you don't really want to be engaged in an email chain. You want the answer in the first response. So ignore email at your own peril. The other channel we want to explore today is the social channel. And in last year, in 2012, of the entire population that we surveyed, 2% of the respondents said that social media was their preferred communication channel when contacting a retailer. And this year it's 7%. And, okay, it's small numbers, it's 225% growth. But if we continue at even half that pace, we're going to be in double digits if we're not there already. And once you're in double digits, it's a channel that's here to stay. I think the more amazing statistic is the next one, which is that 74% of the respondents said that they've used the channel at one time or another to contact a retailer. This is surprising. We expected, a quarter or a third of people to say, yeah, I've contacted a retailer through social media before. We got 3/4 of the population saying they've done that. And in your market, it's 67%, also high, in my opinion. And we wanted to figure out why. So we think the channel, everybody thinks the channel is here to stay. Lots of people are investing a lot of money in it. We wanted to ask why. Why is it that this is happening? We've got a couple of theories. One is related to the graph that's down below. We're spending an enormous amount of time on social media. We asked how much time you spend, and what that pie chart there is showing is that 47% of internet shoppers say they spend 3 or more hours per week on Facebook. 28% spend that much time on YouTube, 20% spend that much time on Twitter, and I've got to tell you, the Twitter one is surprising, because it doesn't take very long to create 140 characters. But if you spend 3 or more hours on Twitter, you must be either reading a lot of tweets or tweeting a lot or doing both. a little bit less for Pinterest, which is somewhat newer anyway. The data for your market is broken out there on the left, and it's in the exact order that the key is listed. So 20% for YouTube, 42% for Facebook, 10% for Twitter, and 6% for Pinterest. So still pretty broad usage of the medium. The other thing that was surprising in the research, but does help explain it, is that retailers are doing a far better job than we ever imagined. So we asked people, okay, so 74% of you said that you've contacted a retailer before using social media. What kind of a response time did you get? And we expected, honestly, a lot of people to say, I never got a response. But 60% of the population said they got a response within hours or less. The rest of that chart, 27 and 9, is either I never got responded to, that's 9%, and the 27% is within days or more. So within hours or less was shockingly good. So the combination of we're spending a lot of time on it, retailers are paying attention and delivering pretty good service, and if you do that, then people will use it. And also that when we read some of the open-ended responses, which we'll do here in a second, consumers believe that they're going to get better service because social channels are public. They're paying attention, and they better because I'm talking about their brand and my friends are hearing it and so forth and so on. So that's the other reason. And here's a good example of that. So retailers want to be seen as doing the right thing for their customers. So Facebook tends to make them do it. If I get bad service, it's on a public forum where others can see the poor service the company gets. I couldn't get a link on Facebook to work, so I posted to the wall, received a response within 5 to 10 minutes. They were monitoring their Twitter feed. They got back to me within hours about an account problem I had. So this one, I took out a lot of the other text that was there, but this is a bank. And it's not a U.S.-based bank either. It's in the European market. But this person was asking a question about their account on Twitter, their bank account on Twitter, a completely open and public forum. So it's a crazy world we live in. So anyway, as you can see, the public nature, the quick response time, and the fact that retailers are being responsive is leading, we think, to the growing popularity of the channel. Is it still young? Yes, it's nascent, and many retailers haven't really figured out how to deliver support here. But that's one of the reasons that I like talking about it, because it means that for those companies that get in early, there's potential for competitive advantage here, which I think is pretty exciting. So social. Pay attention to the channel if you're not already. Based on the amazing number of people who did receive responses, I think we can intuit that your competition might be already if you're not. I think using the channel for marketing is different. This is our one caution. We've talked to some people who go, oh yeah, we're doing the Twitter thing. Well, what are you doing? Oh, we tweet about specials and stuff. That's different. We think you should actively be looking for customers and prospects who are seeking help. Let me go backwards, actually, in the presentation and talk again about this guy with the bank account. Would the marketing team have found this person if what they're doing is tweeting about deposit specials and so forth and so on? Likely no. This was a support team actively monitoring the Twitter feed, looking for their brand name or looking for some other keyword or some other indicator, or maybe they tweeted directly at their account, and they responded and got back to them. And that's different than using Twitter as a media, as a way to broadcast messaging. And so I just make sure that everyone who's thinking about social media is thinking about it in both of those ways, because they're both important. If you can respond within hours, you're going to satisfy most people. The faster, the better on social. The other thing is when we read the open-ended responses, there was a lot of people who really appreciated the fact that people who were responding were knowledgeable. They really knew. And so putting knowledgeable people in charge of responding on social, I think, is critically important as well. Okay. So training, very important for social agents. And also, hey, this is a public forum, so there's some care needed to make sure that when you empower agents to really respond, that they're doing so in a public way. So having good controls in place on those kinds of messages would be important. So I think we ended pretty much where I wanted to, with about 15 minutes remaining for questions. Let's just kind of summarize the things that the things that we talked about today. So most of what you saw today was based on the 2013 edition of Live Chat Effectiveness. And that itself was based on a global survey of nearly 5,000 internet shoppers. And what it concluded was that live chat is a channel with a dedicated fan base that we know can positively drive conversions. Email shouldn't be overlooked. It's widely preferred and offers a timing benefit to retailers. You have a day to respond to emails. Social media is growing, especially in commerce importance, and it works, and your competition may already be paying attention. We also learned that customers will use every channel they can to resolve their problems. For your particular market, we learned that it's underpenetrated than other parts of the world in both live chat and social. Email still remains highly penetrated and highly popular, but I think what this indicates, the underpenetration with live chat and with social, is opportunity for retailers there to establish a first mover advantage. So I think the one takeaway I'd like to leave you with is, embrace and optimize all these communication channels, especially considering the fact that customers are doing that. Customers want to be able to contact you in multiple ways, maybe even about the same issue. So it's a multi-channel world out there. And with that, I think we will stick around for some questions. Here's some food for thought for customer service, just some really good quotes. I love this one from famous American Benjamin Franklin: "Well done is better than well said." That's a good one. Another one of my favorites is "Make a customer, not a sale." So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions that you guys may have.
Fantastic, Ross. Thank you for an informative presentation there. We have had some questions come through over the duration, and so I'll just feed a few of those through. Firstly, Dan asked earlier on about some statistics that you were showing regarding the likelihood of a customer wanting to purchase simply based on the presence of live chat. And there was actually a significant number that were less likely to purchase simply based on the presence of live chat. Dan asked why that might be. Did you gain any insight into why those people took that stance?
Yes. What we think is that it's a combination of either A, so for those who have had a chat before, it's obvious that those who said they're less likely, we intuit that they had a bad chat experience. And so based on that, when they see it, they, that again, right? And so they blame one bad experience, they blame the technology for that. So for those who have never chatted before, but they say that they would be negatively influenced, we can only speculate here. We have some anecdotal information that leads us in the right direction. The survey itself did not actually follow up and ask them a question. We have some other surveys that have done something similar, and what we found out is that those people who've never used the technology before either A, have friends, family, or acquaintances who haven't had a bad experience. So they're one of the previous people that I talked to, and so that I talked about. So they have a negative view of it simply through association. Mm-hmm. The other is that they likely are shoppers that enjoy self-service. So they don't want to talk to anyone through any medium. Okay, they don't want to call, they don't want to talk to you, they want to go to your website. One of the reasons they choose internet shopping is because it keeps them out of stores. It keeps them from people approaching them and asking if they need help. They're the kind of shopper that just does not want that kind of interaction. They want to do it on their own, and so they are just as likely to say that the presence of a phone number probably influences them negatively. So those are the couple of reasons.
Excellent. I've had another question come through from Andy, and Andy asks, what are the best practices for turning chat inwards? And I assume he means to be using chat internally to enhance the ability for salespeople to both engage and sell. Do you have any comments about internal usage of live chat?
Well, one of the things that we know is that we ask people, we say, what makes a successful chat session? We have them rank a bunch of things. So a few things that come out on top of that, which I think has operational implications for those who are going to use chat in whatever setting. I don't think it matters. The number one answer that always comes through is the knowledge of the agent on the other side. So I'm a technology person, right? I work for a software company and I make live chat software, and I'm here to tell you it has nothing to do with the software. It has everything to do with the quality of the agent. And I will tell you this, a chat agent is different. So if you've got a call center today and you're thinking about rolling out chat, you may or may not have the right people already in place. A phone agent and a text-based agent are fundamentally different. So their ability to multitask needs to be better. So a phone agent needs to be able to take a phone call and really pay attention and listen and empathize and really understand the problem at hand and solve it for that customer. A chat agent needs to be able to stay engaged with multiple customers at once so they all feel like they're being listened to and so forth. But they also have to make good choices about who gets responded to next. And so those are fundamentally different skills. Now, some people can do both. Some people can really go one place one day and then on Wednesday they're on chat, and I know companies that do that. But some people can't. And so they're fundamentally different skill sets. And because we know that the number one answer is the knowledge and skill of the agent, that's the first place to focus. The technology stuff can come later. One of the other things that I would say that we know is that the overuse, the over-reliance on canned messages is generally bad. Canned messages are great, and they should be utilized. They can make your agents more efficient. Overusing them can be detrimental. It can make people believe they're not even chatting with a real person. And that's probably the last thing I would say. A lot of people say, hey, can't we get some automation? Do some, well, the first part of the chat can be automated, and if they ask too many questions, well, then we can, and those technologies exist. And our research in no uncertain terms shows that when people engage in a chat, what they are seeking is a conversation with another person. They do not want to talk to robots. They want to talk to people. So I gave you some idea. If that person who asked the question wants to follow up with more questions, I'm more than happy to keep going. But I'll leave it there and just see if that got the job done.
Certainly. There are a few more questions here. Any questions that don't get followed up? We have about 10 minutes left, everyone. Any questions that we can't follow up on, I will endeavour to forward those on to Ross and Andy to chase up for you. More questions are always good, so feel free to keep sending them through, whether we have any enough time for them or not. It's a different question. I have another one here for you in the meantime, though, Ross, from Glenn. And he asks, do you have any plans with BoldChat to change the interface? And he's speaking specifically about how operators visually see and administer shoppers, i.e. if an operator engages with a customer at a particular point in the process, are they going to be able to offer on-the-spot deals, etc.? Do you see this area being developed more into the future? What are your thoughts here?
So we have some customers who do this already. The way they do, I think I understand what the person's asking, and we have some customers who do this already by segmenting their agents and also creating different invitation types. So they use our proactive engine, and what they do is they, for certain rules, they assign different proactive invites, and that have different messaging, like chat with me for a coupon or things like that. And then the agents are empowered because they know the invitation type that came through, they know what kind of coupon code to offer, and they're able to actually incentivize a sale with a particular person based on their behavior. I think what this person is asking is whether or not we intend to really turn the proactive invitation engine into a non-agent based, non-interaction based sort of couponing engine or something like that. We certainly have discussed that. Right now, our customers have told us that they prefer to have as many human-to-human engagements as they can get. And we focus our great attention on trying to engage as many quality visitors as we possibly can. And so that's why we build in things to the interface like built-in split testing. So you can set up a rule and have two different invitations that fire alternatively for that rule. And we have a lot of customers who use that because they want to take the highest take rate that they can, assuming the quality remains consistent, and continually test and tweak because they want to bring, they know their agents know how to close sales. I mean, a chatter is 4 times more likely to buy than a regular website visitor. So if they can bring as many chatters into conversations as they can, they know they've trained their chat agents, and they know they can close the business. They just need to bring them into as many conversations as they can.
Fantastic. I think we have time probably for 2 more questions, and we do have these lined up. Firstly, Alexis, who has a small fashion business with a physical bricks and mortar store, obviously taking up a lot of her time. She also sells online and is keen to implement live chat, but her question is essentially around operating hours for live chat. It makes sense to have live chat there during business hours whilst she's there in store with a good view over her processes, her inventory, and so on. But what about after hours and on weekends? Should she have live chat turned on then so she can communicate with her customers? What would be your advice?
So I again turn to the research study that we just went over, and I didn't present the results, but I know them. And here's what we found. We found that people really value a couple of hours of chat availability after the workday. Why? It's prime shopping time. You get home, you go, I was meant to get to it earlier, I didn't, I'm going to do it now. Weekend hours are valued, but I wouldn't at all say they're necessary. But those evening hours, just a couple of them, I think will pay real dividends. The other challenge that I think the person asking this question is facing is, a staffing issue. And there's a couple of ways to do this. I know some small boutique customers that use our product, and they just keep the chat service on. They install it on multiple computers around the office, so that wherever they are, they can hear a chat alert go off. And they set it to ring so that one of the employees who's standing in the store can go attend to it. They're a kind of boutique electronics retailer that does that, and their customers are very engaged in chat simply because they're passionate about what they're buying. So that's another way to handle it.
Certainly. And I think we'll have one last question here, and it's something that struck me as well. This question comes from Dan, and he's asking about the proactive approach with chat and possible negative impacts. And I think you presented some statistics to show that roughly 2/3 were receptive to proactive chat techniques, but that leaves about 1/3 who are maybe not so happy with it. What are you seeing there, Ross?
Yeah, I appreciate this question a lot because that's true. That's what the data shows. So if roughly 2/3 said, "Yep, we're fairly receptive," that does mean that 1/3 isn't, and we know why. Because we absolutely ask them because this is such an important technology to our customers and to our business. And it's a darn shame, I have to tell you, because almost all of the reasons that people react negatively to proactive are controllable. The number one reason is because the invitation interfered with my shopping. This is a technology statement. There are many proactive technologies out there where you can place the invitation in the middle of the screen, kind of front and center, and it'll stay there as the visitor scrolls, and they cannot do anything until they acknowledge that invitation in some way. They can either say, "Okay, I'll chat with you," or "Go away," and that, according to our survey, is a very bad way to implement proactive. And it's the number one reason that people see it negatively. And it's completely controllable. You do not have to implement it that way. I say that about our technology and I assume that others are flexible as well. Perhaps they're not, and they force you to do it that way. I don't really know. But ours, you certainly can do it that way, but we would tell you not to. Do not do it that way. There are much more elegant ways to implement proactive, and you should explore those elegant ways. The other ways are equally as disappointing. They're all preventable. So another reason people are annoyed by proactive is because I already had a chat with them. So this is, again, it's a setting inside of most major chat provider software. You can say, if the visitor has had a chat, do not invite them again. And we recommend that you set it that way. But again, it's an administratively controlled setting, and if it's overlooked, then yeah, you can pester your visitors. And that is actually the third one. They repeatedly invited me. So pestering and continuing to repeatedly, and sometimes we think you should repeatedly invite. If you have a couple of rules that are related, and if A leads to B, and you know if A leads to B, that leads to a sale, then yes, invite more than once. But you should know that, right? And so a lot of people, they take the easy way out, and they just set up rules based on, oh, invite them at 30 seconds and 45 seconds and a minute, and then you have way too many invitations, and that is annoying. Again, controllable. The one that's not controllable is this one. I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready when they invited me, so I got annoyed. I have to tell you, this one is only solved through testing, because being ready depends on the page, it depends on the content, it depends on what you're selling, and you have to constantly be testing it to find the right time to invite. And we know of all of the things that you can control inside of a proactive engine, the one that matters most is timing. So the way the invite looks, what it says, where it appears, how it moves, all those other things that you can control, they're important, but the most important one is, when do you send it? And if you have a good, robust, proactive engine, you can do a bunch of testing and find the right answer for each of the pages on your site, and then you won't be doing it wrong. So I'm sorry, that's a long-winded response, but it's an important one, because a lot of the reason people are afraid of proactive, a lot of those reasons are controllable. And so we know proactive works. We are proponents of proactive chat. We know that the majority of website shoppers are receptive to it, and we know that you can control it in a way to make it positive for everyone.
Well, fantastic. And I think that just about wraps it up. We're sitting right on an hour now. So just to repeat, and for those of you who may not have been with us right from the very start, this has been Boosting Sales Conversions with Digital Customer Service Excellence, presented to you by Power Retail and Ross Haskell, Director of Products at BoldChat. Now, just to repeat once again, this has been recorded. We will be posting it via our website, and we'll make sure that a link is sent out to all of you who attended.